Oh, it's gone. It's gone. It'll come back to me in a minute. But again, and Sophie Thompson was in that actually, Emma Thompson's sister. So we played the girls, as it were, in the hysterical girls, and that was great fun to do, and a real proper, grown-up drama.
Yeah.
That was I did enjoy that. Yeah.
And then how did your think about Doctor Who come about? Was that your agent?
Yes, again, my agent. I mean, I heard actually the guys talking earlier on before I came on about how casting has changed, and even in my era, which I know is quite a long time ago, but it's not that long ago, you didn't have casting directors. So when your agent said you're going along to the BBC, and normally it was a part of TV Centre called Threshold House, where a lot of the offices were, you're going along there to meet the director, which you did. And because John Nathan Turner was only like 3 floors up, John Black said, well, can I get you to meet John Nathan Turner, and can you read again for me? So he was brought down and I read again. And then a few days later I heard I'd got the part for Keeper of Traken, not for anything beyond that.
And how did you deal with all that? Obviously, any time a Doctor is cast, and there tends to be quite a lot of press attention. Did that ever become invasive to you or anything like that at that time?
No, the sort of press side of things when I got the job was more than I'd experienced with any other job that I'd had, because it was more high profile, I suppose, but it wasn't unknown to me. But it's different times now. I mean, the whole world knows now with social media, and the hype of things is so much more. Everything seemed to be a lot more low key. In the old days.
And I think also there was almost an element of surprise about things, wasn't there? People
Absolutely.
didn't find out
No, I mean you couldn't keep those secrets now. You can't keep secrets anymore, which is a shame. Someone was saying to me today about how they kept the Cybermen coming back in Earthshock a secret. Can you imagine that nowadays? That would be all over.
Yeah, because I think the original idea for that was that they were going to give them the front cover, weren't they?
Yeah,
then he said, don't
no.
do that.
No,
Want to keep it a bit of a secret. So, when you got the role, when you got the part, did you know at that time that it was just for those 4 episodes?
Yes, just for Keeper of Traken.
So when did you know that they were?
Well, that must have been must have been while I was filming that they talked about extending the contract. So.
And were you aware that Tom was leaving?
Yes.
As well.
Yeah.
And I know that in a recent interview, you said that you were a little bit frightened of Tom.
I was terrified of Tom Baker.
Was that when you met him, or was that before you met him?
No, when I met him, I wasn't sort of primed as to what sort of character he was, but he's such a big character, and he was the Doctor, and even in rehearsals, he really was the Doctor, and I found him slightly intimidating, I have to say.
And I think Tom's admitted that.
Yes.
He said he felt
Yeah.
he was often a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, he almost. I felt as if he never really remembered my name, because he always used to call me Miss Basingstoke. Because I was born in Basingstoke. I was born in the shrubbery in Basingstoke. Not literally in the shrubbery. I was born in a nursing home called the Shrubbery, but I like to say I was born in the shrubbery in Basingstoke. And so after that, it's almost as if he'd remembered the word Basingstoke, but he couldn't be bothered to remember the word Sarah. So it was just easier to call me Miss Basingstoke than it was.
So that must be quite a tense time.
Yes, it was tense because he was coming to the end of his era, his reign, I suppose. And all those emotions for him must have been quite difficult, and so yes, it was a bit awkward sometimes.
What would you say your typical day in the studio would be for sort of doing Doctor Who?
Get up early, get into makeup early, and because I had that squiddly diddly hairdo, I was the longest in makeup all the time. So I had to sit there and the BBC in those days, to curl your hair, they used what they used to use in the Victorian times, which is basically a metal rod which they stick into a heating appliance which is sat on the top of the table in the makeup room, and they wait till it's almost red hot. They take it out and wind your hair around it. And I noticed after a while that I just got stubble growing here. I thought, what's this hair? Because all my hair had snapped off. So I said, please can can I just have a looser hair? So that's why it became, well, yeah. So by the time I'd done that for a few hours, that was the beginning of the day. And then we'd walk through things in the morning, and then we'd rehearse, record after that. And then come afternoon, start panicking because we were already behind schedule, and the studio finishes at 10 o'clock. They literally pull the plugs out at 10 o'clock.
So whether you finished or not, that was it, wasn't it?
Yeah, because in those days the unions were so much stronger, and they said 10 o'clock, and you had to renegotiate anything. Even 5 minutes was negotiated. It caused some tense times, I have to say, particularly on Black Orchid, because we had a strike, I think, during that story as well. And we were just running out of time, and the floor manager would be eared up to the gallery, to the director and the producer, and they would just say to you, this scene now we're going to do, it's a minute, 20 seconds, make it 40 seconds, action. Okay, you're cutting as you're going along. It gets the adrenaline going. Yeah, quite stressful.
And had you watched Doctor Who before you got part?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Okay.
I knew what it was,
Yes.
obviously. Everyone does, but I hadn't watched it. I have a vague memory of coming back from... My dad was a pilot, so I flew with him quite a lot. Mum and I used to travel with him quite a bit. I remember coming back off a flight somewhere, I must have been 5 or 6, and turning on the television, little black and white that we had at home, and Doctor Who was on. It was a Patrick Troughton, but I can't remember what it was, and I do have a vague memory of that, but other than that, nothing.
And how did you find going into, I guess, a bit of a team, because there was Janet already there, Matthew was there as well. And at that point, I think I'm right in saying that was probably the first time there'd been like 3 companions for quite a while.
Yes, I think so. Now you'll be able to correct us on this. Has there ever been, previous to that, were there 3 companions at once? The very right at the very beginning. Yeah.
So, how did you think that worked as with regards scripts?
Well, I think there's too many, and I think that probably is the general feeling, in that when it comes down to 4 half-hour episodes or 25-minute episodes, whatever they are, it's very hard. I don't write, I'm not a writer, but I can imagine if you're a writer, it's actually quite difficult to split everybody up. You can't have us all traipsing around together, so you have to separate, which means you have to have little side stories. And it gets very difficult to bring that all together in 4 episodes. The lovely thing about doing some of the big finishes is that I've managed to do ones with Janet and Matthew and Mark, and we have an absolute ball, let me tell you. It's great fun. But I've also had the opportunity to do more stories with Peter's Doctor, Just Nissa. And it's been fantastic to be able to do both those, because I didn't get that opportunity, particularly on the telly.
And during that first full season, obviously they changed the Doctor, Peter came on. I'm imagining that there was a completely different dynamic.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Peter brought a completely different atmosphere to the whole thing. I mean, I'd absolutely adored him, as a lot of people had, as Tristan in All Creatures.
And did you know that he was going to be cast?
I'm trying to remember when I found that out. I can't quite. It must have been reasonably early on. I'm very excited. I thought this is great. I thought it was a brilliant choice. And he, of course, was the youngest Doctor at that point to have played the Doctor. So yes, it was a real change.
And I think that they're looking at those stories, because obviously season 19 in particular had a recent release on Blu-ray. I think you can see like that team kind of working together, can't you, really?
Yeah, and I think it comes across in the Big Finish audios. I think it's like we've never been apart.
Yeah.
There's a great bond between us. It's been great fun to be able to reprise that.
And how did you find stories that perhaps more, I was thinking like the sex story, like 42 Day, that was much more just studio bound, wasn't it? Did you like that mix of kind of location?
Well, that's the odd thing, is that we recorded out of sequence.
Yeah.
So we didn't, Port of Doomsday, I think we recorded first.
That was the first story.
I never quite understood the logic behind that.
Well, there's been a couple of theories on that.
Apparently John wanted Peter to get
into
the part before we went back and did the first one. But I don't see why you'd want anyway. Maybe I'm not thinking on the same wavelength, obviously. But.
And the other reason I heard was the fact that maybe the first script wasn't ready.
Oh, that's probably more likely.
So I don't know. And then obviously in that first season you had the great opportunity of playing two parts. We spoke briefly about Black Orchid.
Yeah.
You played Anne.
Yes.
How was that, doing those two things?
I have to say, I love Black Orchid because we all got to change costumes and it was away from the science fiction side of things, which I quite enjoyed. But I think I did such a poor job in it. And I'll tell you why. And people often ask me about my time on Doctor Who, and I'll be very honest now. Up until then, I'd done a lot of work, and I'd done a lot for the BBC. And because I was young, I was 11 when I did my first television, I had fantastic directors who very, very nurturing and looked after me. And I think I was very spoiled. They took great care for me to understand that I understood what I was doing, because I was a child, basically. And they helped me. They didn't coach me or how to say things, but they made sure that I had an understanding so that it came across. And I felt like I was taken care of in that way. And that, I think, made me lazy. Because when I came to do Doctor Who, which I considered to be a step up, I suppose, in that I was being more grown up. I wasn't playing a child as such anymore, although I was only playing someone who was 18, 19. I was only 19 myself. Because of the nature of Doctor Who, it's a busy, fast programme, it's got technical problems, it's monsters, and there's a lot going on. I suddenly, although I didn't realise at the time, I think I felt a bit lost. And I think I probably could have done, particularly with Black Orchid playing the two parts, I think I probably could have done with stronger direction. That's kind of passing the buck a bit, because I should have been able to organise it myself. But that's explaining it in a way that I'd come from a completely different background, and I had to learn to get on with it myself. And I'm not sure I had the competence and the wherewithal to do that necessarily. So I'm always slightly disappointed with Black Orchid. I think I probably could have done a lot better.
And did you find that because Doctor Who is kind of a programme unlike any other, where every story basically, you've got new sets, you've got
Absolutely.
people coming in,
yeah.
You've obviously almost certainly got a new director.
Yeah.
So did you find that some directors were perhaps a little more giving you direction on what
Yes, I mean, I think they've got their own problems, directors on Doctor Who. They've got a myriad of things and issues to deal with, and the actors are kind of left to sort of get on with it themselves, which is fine, but it's not how I'd come to be at the point where I was in Doctor Who. Had not been my experience beforehand.
And how did you find the dancing aspect of it?
Oh, that was fun. That's the one thing I do. I can dance a bit, so I did enjoy that. That was really good fun.
And you got, well, as you say, you got costumes.
Oh yeah, pretty costumes. Yes, we got to change, which was
how
lovely.
did you get with your double?
Well, that was all trick photography. I did probably do it differently, completely differently now, but then it was done with split screen. So all those things, it made making Black Orchid a real headache.
And I think it's quite noticeable if you watch some of those scenes outside that it's supposed to be kind of very hot day.
It's blowing a gale and everything.
Yeah, and it looks really cold.
The patio's all wet when it's been raining and something. There's no way if you were having a party you'd be outside on the terrace in that weather.
And then obviously we've gone on to work.
Peter hates that story, by the way.
Who's that?
Peter.
Yes,
yeah, doesn't
no,
he?
I'm never quite sure.
Yeah, I tell you why. He's moaning because he didn't like his costume. Yeah, so, that Harlequin thing,
yeah.
He didn't like his costume, so he's just throwing his toys out the pram, I think.
Would you say one of your favourites? Did you like it?
I did, because it was a break from the science fiction, but probably not my favourite.
And then obviously there became Earthshock, which was the first big return to the Cybermen.
Absolutely.
For 7 years. That must have been quite an exciting...
It was, because it was a secret, and we knew it was, and yeah, it had a certain puissance about it.
And did you know at that stage that Matthew was going to leave it?
Yes, we knew by then that yeah. He was not happy.
No.
Poor Matthew.
Yeah, and I think And how did you kind of all get on together? Did you get on fairly well?
Yes, we did get on very well. It was interesting because Matthew was the same age as me, but this was his first job.
And he was very much a Doctor Who fan, wasn't he?
Yes, absolutely. And this wasn't my first job, and I hadn't been a Doctor Who fan. So there was a slight sort of... I remember once a particular director tore me off a strip with Matthew. The two of us got a lecturing about performance, I think, in the studio, and it happened to be in the makeup room in front of makeup artists, and I was absolutely livid because I'd never been treated like that by any other director, and I was particularly furious, and I was particularly furious that I'd been grouped together with Matthew. I thought, I was just very cross about that.
Yeah.
But generally, we got on fine.
Right, yeah. And then I was going to ask you about you by the next story, which was Time Flies, and you appeared with Anthony. That was, I think, your third time with Anthony.
Yeah.
What was Anthony like?
I never really got... Well, yes, he was, but he's not someone you ever really got to know very well.
Right. Was he very distant or reversed?
He was just in... Yeah, he was, I suppose. Yeah, you just didn't really ever feel you got to know him that well. He wasn't someone who would let other people in. I mean, Janet and I, we all became quite close, but I never particularly came close to him. No.
Yeah. And how did you feel about Time Fly generally? Just had a bit of a...
Oh, poor old Time Fly. No, there's no love. There's no love for Time Fly, poor thing. I think we'd run out of money. I think it was suffering badly. And we were all very excited initially because we thought we were all going to get a flight on Concorde. No, it was never going to happen. John Nathan Turner might have wanted it, but it was definitely never going to happen. So
it was quite ambitious, wasn't it?
It was. Yes, it was way ambitious beyond beyond reasoning, I think, really, beyond the BBC, certainly. Can you imagine today if they were doing that story today? It would be completely different, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. And then when you feel kind of moving into your second series, your costume changed. Was that something you wanted to do?
We always wanted to change costumes. Janet and I were always wanting to change outfits. We're girls, we wanted new outfits all the time. I don't think my change of costumes was particularly successful. The snake dance one Peter didn't like. But his wife at the time said I looked like a waitress from McDonald's.
I should look at that story in a different light.
Yeah, absolutely. So that wasn't particularly successful. I didn't mind it, actually. The shape was pretty, the colours were perhaps a bit off. And then the one that in my last story with the grey suede, which was beautifully made. The costumes are beautifully made on Doctor Who, I have to say. And there's some very skilled people, well there were very skilled people at the BBC in those days. And I don't think some of the time the detail of the costumes comes across on the television. You need to see them really. But my grey one was very, very nice. I never really understood why I ended up losing the grey bit, but then ended up in my underwear. I think John Nathan Turner might have had something to say about that.
Well, I'm aware we've only got about 5 minutes left now, so I'm going to throw it over to the audience, because in case there's anybody who's got any particular questions.
Only easy questions, mind you.
Peter been celebrating 20 years of Doctor Who on audio. So what are your memories of your first story, Land of the Dead?
Land of the Dead. It was so Winter of the Dead was the second one, wasn't it? Yeah. Well, I remember being contacted, and they out of the blue saying that the company they were called Big Finish and they were going to start doing them, and I thought, oh, that would be quite good fun. Let's just do it like a one-off. That'll be fine. And then 20 years later, here we are still making Big Finish audios. It was really good fun, but the studio was very simple. They moved studios a few times. I can't quite remember the first one we were at. It was in one big room, so. We had the director there and a few microphones, and we were all just desperately not trying to make noise, everything while the other person was speaking. And then as it's progressed, we now go to what we call the Moat Studios in London, and we have our own little booths, and we get really nice lunch, and so it's kind of improved a lot over the 20 years. But I thought that was just a one-off. I thought, that's it, I've done that. That was really good fun. then,
Was expecting
and no, absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And now they're doing so much Big Finish. And I thank them so much because it's given, and I'm probably not just speaking for myself here, but it's given us all the opportunity to expand the characters that we were given for the TV show. And Nissa's done so many amazing things on audio that I would never have had the chance to do on TV. So it's been great fun, and I thank them very warmly.
I think we've got time just for one more question. Gentleman just at the back there. Yes, sir.
What was filming the time flight extras like at Manchester?
Oh, yes. Have you all seen the extras?
Yes.
We flew up to Manchester to go on Concorde, and I must say, actually, generally speaking, the extras have been brilliant to do. Russell Minton, who's been in charge of them, has done amazingly, and we all love doing behind the sofas, and Janet brings along her blanket, her comfort blanket, and we all sit behind. We've had such a ball doing those, they're really good, and it was great to go on Concorde up at Manchester. And the little film that we did where Janet's talking and Peter and I are in the seat and everything, those are things that we've just added on at the last minute, or Russell's had a really good idea about. Somebody said, I think we should do this. Oh, that's a good idea. But you can see how things are evolving, so I'm hoping we're going to be doing a few more things. I'm sure at some point, I'm hoping we'll get to go back to Amsterdam for Art Infinity, which would be really good. So yeah, there's lots to look forward to there, but I haven't seen any of them because I don't have a Blu-ray machine, so my mission, when I get back from my holiday next week, I want to get a Blu-ray machine so I can watch them. That would be brilliant.
Okay, well, sadly we've run out of time today, but Sarah,
thank you very much.